Landed cost refers to the total cost of getting a product from your supplier to your warehouse or storefront. It includes not just the product costs, but all additional expenses involved in the process. To calculate landed costs, start with the base product costs, then add fees such as shipping, customs duties, tariffs and import taxes, insurance, handling charges, and any other miscellaneous cost. Understanding your true landed cost helps you price your products accurately and protect your profit margins. It also supports smarter sourcing decisions. A product that seems like a good deal at first might end up costing much more once all the extra fees are added in. Let's walk through a real example of how to enter landed costs in Acctivate. I have an inventoried product named A1 widget, which I sell for $150 each. At the moment, I don't have any on hand, but I have one on order on a vendor PO. Let's take a look. On this PO, I have my A1 widget product, which I'm ordering for a purchase price or cost of $100. In addition to A1 widget, I have another product, which is a chair. Let's create an inventory receipt to receive these two products into our warehouse. I don't have any changes I need to make to this, so I'll go ahead and post the inventory receipt. And here we have a report summarizing the transaction. Now that we've received in this product, let's sell it to a customer. From the customer list, I'll create a sales order for customer ABC, and on the first line, I'll add A1 widget. I'm selling this product at our list price of $150. We can go ahead and create an invoice which we can preview and send to the customer. Since this is the customer's copy of the invoice, it won't display the cost of goods sold. Instead, let's take a look at the transaction history for our product. Here we can see the receipt, which added inventory at a cost of $100, and the sale, which removed inventory, calculating cost of goods sold at $100. Next, we need to enter in the vendor bill or purchase invoice. This could come days, weeks, or even months after the inventory receipt. First, we'll need to fill in the required fields at the top. And optionally, I can make any changes to line item quantities and prices to match my vendor bill. The invoice from my vendor includes an extra charge for shipping, so I'll use the Add Expense button to enter in this charge. First, I'll enter a description of the expense. I'm being charged for freight, so I'll type that in. Then I'll enter the amount of the expense. I'm being charged $20 for freight. I want to treat this as a landed cost, so I'll check the Add Expense as landed cost checkbox, and then I'll click Save and Close. When prompted, I'll save my progress. I'm not finished with creating the purchase invoice yet, but I need to allocate the landed cost. The inner landed cost window opens with the PO number, landed cost amount, and vendor already associated with it since I'm creating this from my purchase invoice window. Since I received multiple products in, I need to choose how I want to allocate the landed cost. I can enter my own allocation as a percentage or an amount, or I can use one of the auto allocation options. I can choose to allocate by quantity, value, weight, or volume. I'll choose quantity, which will allocate the $20 equally amongst the two lines because each line was for a quantity of 1. Let's go ahead and post this landed cost. Optionally, I can generate this report as a record of the transaction. Now that we've posted the landed cost transaction, let's return to the purchase invoice window. I've now entered the purchase invoice information from the vendor. The total invoice amount includes the amount from the products and additional expense. I can create the invoice, which will sync to QuickBooks as a vendor bill. Now that I've received and entered an invoice for all lines, I'll be asked if I want to mark this PO as completed. Let's return to the product's transaction history and take a look. Here we can see our original receipt, which added the product at $100. Now we have a landed cost transaction that positions itself immediately after the receipt and added $10 of costs based on how we allocated shipping. That causes the cost of goods sold for our invoice to be recalculated at $110. Now let's say the vendor's shipping charge was to ship the product only halfway. For the remaining leg of the shipment, I contracted with a shipping vendor who billed me separately. I want to add that vendor's bill as a landed cost for the same inventory receipt. To do that, I'll open the Enter Landed Costs window. To create a new landed cost, I'll click New, and then I want to use the Load Items menu to load my inventory receipt from earlier. I can choose to load a specific inventory receipt or all receipts for a specific PO. Additionally, I can load inventory transfer and assembly transactions. I'll use the Receipts from PO option, and I'll select my purchase order. Once selected, it'll load the items from the receipts associated with the purchase order into the Enter Landed Cost window. Now I can begin entering in my landed cost information. I have a bill for $20, so I'll enter that in. I'll enter in the invoice number, and then I'll look up and select the vendor this bill is from. Finally, I'll allocate this cost amongst the items. This time, I'll allocate by the value of the product. Since my A1 widget was received at a higher cost, more of the landed cost will be allocated to that product. Let's post this transaction and see how it affects the cost of goods sold on that invoice. Back on the Products Transactions tab, we can see a new landed cost transaction has been added after the receipt and before the sales invoice. This results in the sales invoice's cost of goods sold being recalculated as $123.11. We can compare that to the sales price by returning to the customer's invoice. On the timeline, I'll open the customer invoice, and here we can see that we sold it for $150, again with a cost of goods sold of $123.11. Accurately recording these costs gives you a clear picture of your true product expenses and helps you ensure better pricing and profitability. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out our other videos for more tips and tutorials.